NOS4A22, Chapter 4, Crown Vic. Millie and Wayne are told by Wayne's mom that Maggie was trying to find Wayne. This makes Millie and Wayne go from their dreamland to try and find Wayne's father, but they went through the bad door, not the good one. That made me feel really weird, Millie. I feel really weird. I wish I didn't see that. I wish I wasn't looking. Wayne shook up in a mess, tried not to freak out as they stopped in this unfamiliar place. I don't know how you could have missed it. Millie consolingly gave any sort of words she could find that expressed an explanation to show the reality of the unavoidable unbelievable. Yeah, I guess you're right. How in the hell could we have missed that? Wayne became nervously excited. We saw something nobody's supposed to see, Wayne. It just really bothers me. Plus, how are we supposed to go on living our lives pretending we don't know what we just saw? Millie did her best to stay focused on Wayne instead of continuing to look outside of their protective shell. Millie, I hear Maggie and my dad at the same time, like I feel them. They're telling me to not be scared about what's going to happen. Wayne gave such a random response that Millie didn't know if he was feeling something right now on a level of actual communication, or if he was just trying to be nice through expressing a spiritual connection, which she didn't doubt any of that at all, regardless. This feeling. Do you hear your dad's voice together along with Maggie at the same time like a duet? Millie flat out asked bluntly. It's exactly like that. But yeah, a feeling. Like a humming feeling. Vibrating together in my brain, repeating the same message, Wayne explained. Wow! Well, we better listen. Millie became very nervously excited. I know! I just wish I knew what to do to get out of there and find them, Wayne said just before a surprising thing happened to them. The protective shell that encapsulated Millie and Wayne safely within, as it acted as their travel pod, dissolved around them, and every particle in its entirety had been magnetically charged to go back to the energy source in which it came from. Thinking and imagining to be covered in some kind of particles, they inspected themselves to see. Indeed, there were particles covering their entire bodies now, head to toe, only they weren't visible now that they had coated Millie and Wayne in this new kind of temporary protection. The bubble-like shield around them had no longer the ability to stay solid, as the condensed strength and unmatched power of the essence of the strong creative must return back to the soul source immediately after travel for any other use in that time of need for the good, pure, strong creative. Those vampiric ones who manipulate to feed like the leech, they cannot be granted this privilege to travel beyond, away from that evil, because they belong with the very nature they share. Why can't we see it anymore? I know it's all over us. Millie nervously tugged on her clothes with a wacky smile born from frustration. You know, it didn't leave. It's with us, covering us with protection. This is what Maggie meant along with my dad. The feeling of their voices together. It makes even more sense now, the whole message. It was like this feeling of Maggie telling me and my dad agreeing, like repeating the feeling, Wayne reassured and explained. That's what they meant? Are you sure, Wayne? Millie looked skeptical. Yes, this is exactly why Maggie reached out with my dad right now. We just need to move our asses now, because the protection won't last long. And don't ask me how I know, because they didn't tell me. I'm finding out on my own. and Wayne grimaced in discomforting pain as he held back from explaining so they could move the hell out of there. "Then let's go, Wayne. This place has been bothering me since we stopped. I didn't even want to bring it up because it's creeping me out so badly. That's why I tried my hardest to avoid it." Millie pulled on Wayne's arm. Wayne wanted to tell her that he felt a cold burning specifically around the back of his neck. His body was chilled as if he had been thrown in a cold bath of ice, but only for that moment or two. With time not on their side, Millie and Wayne had to move. This chill on the back of his neck kept Wayne dead in his tracks for a good few seconds until he could shake it off and briskly walk in a gallop-paced run behind Millie. Millie was a fast runner. Wayne galloped along as Millie's hand broke free from Wayne's gentle grasp with his fingers enjoying her touch. Millie's feet were too fast for her intentions to stay alongside Wayne. Feelings of courageous strength flowed through Wayne's confident stride as he watched Millie fearfully and cautiously run ahead of him, but with enough confidence not to fall apart. This little fact was big and certainly didn't go unrecognized, as Wayne felt strong, even though the stinging on the back of his neck concerned him, because that cold burn evolved into a prickly sharp sensation that was beginning to shoot extreme pain at random times. Time went on just enough to fool him into thinking he might be able to bear it. This was a perversely sick affliction about Wayne's neck, and felt unnatural in nature. Wayne just knew it, but wasn't about to stop Millie just to waste time in this dangerous place, making her panic more when she was just strong enough not to break. Wayne was so thankful for this, at least, and wasn't about to ruin the little bit of grace they had, even if it wasn't much other than him enjoying being happy watching Millie quickly move ahead cautiously in front of him. He just wanted to focus on getting the hell out of this bad place where no life has any place being. There are unnatural frequencies of communication through the lines set up from the old evil ones who strayed away from doing good, making stubborn decisions to fight against anything good, while feeding their own selfish lusts. Without their peculiar protection, Millie and Wayne would be penetrated with those channels' waves, and would be picked up by mental sensors that are always actively projecting astrally from the vampiric leeches throughout the dark corners of the hidden places just beyond detection, yet close as your nearest neighbor. Wayne's neck was locking up, and it was scaring him, as his muscles weren't allowing him to turn even a fraction of a degree to the left or right. He was alarmed until he felt vibrational force of his divine communication with his mother, who let him know this, even if it was to protect him, even though it didn't feel like it. So she welcomed these sensations, getting him to have no fear. By not turning his neck, the channels would not pick up Millie and Wayne as they ran through their waves. Millie and Wayne had a long way to go through this place where no life should be. By Wayne's neck muscles tightening up, he wasn't able to turn his head, so this made him focus on moving straight ahead. If he turned enough to make his neck come into contact with those invisible electromagnetic radio waves, then Wayne would be detected by the evil leeches. Also, a much worse pain would inflict the invisible wound. The stinging was bad because of the atmosphere being covered in these communication waves that manipulate the normal ways and laws of nature. These waves should not be there, but by sheer persistence, they cast a blanket to cover the airways. Lou was on a mission. Wayne's big lovable dad Lou was driven by a heart that could not allow his relentlessness inside to sit still any longer. He had waited for longer than what any parent should have to wait for answers concerning a missing child. Soon as Lou had a little bit of peace with his son, after all the craziness they had been through, it had been stripped from him, leaving him to madness within his own hell alone. The man had gone through this before, and it was at the start of a relationship that burned bright and strong with the real passion of love, only for his love to be taken away. Soon as he got to be with her, the girl of his dreams. First, it was Wayne that was gone. Once young Wayne was safely retrieved, the life of his beloved Victoria was taken, and not too long after. Lou was not given much time with Victoria, and he could not accept the possibility that Wayne could be taken, gone forever. So Lou went to an area in some private property that he knew of to have a lot of open land next to the open road that was a quiet highway. Unfortunately, there weren't a whole lot of options for anyone off the old open road anymore. Everything was private. If whatever gated off isn't owned by a rich private residence like a celebrity, then it most often will be privately owned by a big company. Either way, it's most likely going to be a wealthy person or private entity. Some of these people are so powerful, they're able to own entire national forests. Among the many walks of life who own these priceless pieces of property, there are some spread about who are made for killing. Some people are made for killing. There's people made for other useful things like telling stories, writing, creating all kinds of art, or other forms of entertainment. Then there are those who chose to use and lend their talents to things less productive. These are not worthy enough to be called strong creative because they left the ways that benefit others. So, we have Lou, Wayne's awesome dad, who just can't tap into these kinds of strong creative mental powers. It's not that he's mentally weak. He has the brilliant mind of a mechanic. As anyone who knows Lou knows this about him. He's no slouch. He's big, burly, and strong. Plus he's no bonehead. He's basically a genius, and maybe even a creative genius as well. But it is in a very specific mechanical area mostly, which is interesting, because what he does is an art, no doubt about it. He just can't manifest things mentally the way strong creatives can. Maybe it's because he's so dominantly right-handed and logic-oriented. In these days here, Lou Carmody was a broken-down man, beaten by the curses upon his life, and dealing with but not coping very well with losing all the things he loves. His fight in him, driven by his big heart, was making Lou a mighty force to be reckoned with. Although he was a blind man when it came to the mental powers and senses of the strong creative, he was gifted in other ways that made him an amazing hero dad. Without a doubt, it should be written that Lou Carmody is a name of a man who stands for good. Lou was just a tired, hungry beast, looking for his pup. All the evil creatures in his way would tremble if they even knew what was coming. Straight through all the hateful, deceitful traps that all the evil ones can think of to stop such a man who's clearly motivated by all the love a good man has left to live for and to fight for before these evil leeches take the last bit of happiness from an already greatly humbled man. Lou moved forward with the help of Maggie, and they were developing a close bond through the whole experience, which was a beautiful thing, considering there was no sexual attraction on either side whatsoever. Their friendship was strong through the shared love of Wayne and his mom, whose spirit was also guiding the children, both Millie and Wayne, while helping Lou and Maggie all she could, as Vic was breaking through the spirit realm every chance she could get. So, although Lou Carmody himself did not possess any powers of the strong creatives to help him on his journey as he came to a place where he thought to go from before, He had an angelic force with a direct connection to one of the strongest of the strong creatives there are in the world. Lou didn't know it yet, but he was about to care for Millie Manx as if she was his own daughter, the same way he feels about Wayne, whom he couldn't love more as his own son. These two are very special in their own right, and Lou is connected to them as a father, as time and fate brought them into each other's lives like the rushing in of a flood. By a strange, undeniable cosmic force that was not harmfully dark or evil of origin, but came in a burst of positive light with good nature and will. This was real strength that Lou had surging through him that kept his feet restless. Driving became tiresome, and he just felt like his feet needed to hit the ground. He needed to be getting into the places where a car doesn't go, to get closer to those places where Millie and Wayne might be. All he knew from Maggie was that Millie and Wayne had just arrived at a midpoint in the gateway between their land of paradise and where Lou was at, by the edge of the hills and mountains that flow rolling up and down through the forest next to their house. This was rough. The best thing for Lou in these times was the presence of Maggie. She was this relief to him, like a breath of fresh air that continued to give a sigh of relief, calming his nerves, bringing his blood pressure down even. That was particularly amazing, considering the situation they were diving into. The two were parking, getting ready to wander, roaming through what is roughly a 500 square mile area. Determination was a gut-wrenching thing to witness. It was gross what it did to the affected, making people lose a part of themselves and wander as ghosts to find the thing that they remember making them whole again. These kinds of things have happened too many times throughout time, and this is why there is no shortage of wandering spirits. Wayne knows quite well, as he has been visited with the kind of spiritual encounters with his parents that many can only dream of. "What the hell are you doing, Lou? Did you drive me all the way out here to bury me in the woods? It's a good time to do it in the winter, snow and all, you know." Maggie gave her classic signature-style icebreaker one-liner comedy relief once Lou abruptly stopped the truck. "Maggie, I've got to get closer to wherever the hell they're at. You got me this close. How can you let us get this close and bust my balls?" Lou gives the old classic-style humor he is known for to get a grudging smile out of Maggie, as she couldn't hide her face with her soft side. "I don't want to hurt your sensitive balls. I can't imagine what kind of condition they're in after all you've been through." Maggie surprised Lou with some real good sincerity. "Whoa, I thought for sure you were going for the blue ball opening." Lou smiled like a teenager. "Yeah, that's what I was getting at. You just had to actually say it, didn't you?" Maggie went deadpan like a light switch, and they were back like before, only better. "Oh, sorry. I forgot you're sensitive about manly things, or anything pertaining to men." Lou kept the fun times going through the beginning of their search. "You ironically personified the definition of the slang term dickhead. Thank you for proving my point for my stance in life." Maggie floored him. "God damn! That was amazing, Maggie. You're badass, I must say, you're badass." Lou got real excited amongst all the fun and perked up through the adventure they were now on. "Don't kiss my ass too much. That's all you're gonna be doing with this ass." Maggie tried to keep the fun going with a smile on her face as she pushed tree branches away that were too old and snapping off in a very annoying way, which was way too dangerous for Maggie's liking. "What ass? When I look at you, Can't you tell by my face it's like I'm looking through a skeleton, bony butt? I miss my Vic. God damn. I'm gonna start crying out here. Lou wasn't kidding. Oh wow, you're all over the place, buddy. I think you should focus on finding Wayne and Millie. Maggie looked serious as she stopped for a second to give one of those hard looks. Yeah, let's do that. Lou left it at that and began going in a direction where Maggie was leading the way. This way through an impossible path is guided by a strong feeling that is a signal which proves to be more powerful than the one set up from the leeches, those waves set up to harm Millie and Wayne. These instead are pure and have a direct connection to only the purely intended targets. No maliciousness or manipulation like the signals used by the leeches. Nothing harmful about the connection, fortunately for all of them, compared to their enemies who operate on an entirely different concept of anti-morals. This ancient club of what real vampires are have achieved Mirrorland status, where their existence mirrors anything that is supposed to be accepted in reality. Instead, they get to live in the shadows of backwards land. This is the real first exposed secret of the leeches. These ancient beings that are what real vampires are. These aren't fairy tales. Real vampires telepathically feed on the soul before feeding on the blood. There's no need for them to randomly bite necks. The leeches are an ancient order who call themselves just that, the Order of the Leech. Maggie learns more about the ancient order once they have been marching on this trail that isn't even a visible trail for a while. I think we're onto something, Lou. Maggie picked up a coat that was a robe made of neatly woven pelts. You really think this is them? Lou genuinely looked undecided with his mind. I do. Maggie pulled out a stylish little coin purse from the pocket of the woven pelt robe, holding it up and smiling like she was real sure of herself. Best goddamn news I ever got. I just can't believe it. I was convincing myself I needed to prepare for their funeral. I just couldn't fully let myself believe it. You coming along and telling me you've been able to talk to Vic and get through to the kids has just raised me from the dead. I was good as dead, Maggie, good as dead. Lou wept as the feelings overcame him that were due to him from relief. Hell yeah, Lou. You got to let this shit out sometimes. I know, this is good news. I know they're alive, no question. I feel it so damn strong because they're close. Maggie let him in on the good news. Oh my God, we're gonna run into them, aren't we? Lou blurted his realization as it came to him in surprise. Just ahead, Maggie said with confident anticipation.